Okay, welcome one and all. We're on Chav Zayin Amid Aleph. Bit of a different setup tonight. We're in this space, but the Gemara is still the same Gemara. So we'll see how far we get, and if the cool air turns on, we'll be able to finish this year. And if not, they'll pick me up off the floor if I collapse. So it's all good. Page, we're up to Chav Zayin Amid Aleph. We're still going through the Mishnah on Chav Vav Amid Bet. One of the things that we had mentioned was the idea that if you cover it in gold, that would be a problem. But I want to qualify it now that we're into the Gemara, since when we saw it inside in the previously, it was talking about gold. We had this whole sugya of enkategar nases anegor. The defense, the prosecution can no longer become a defense attorney, right? We had that conversation, and we said, well, is that really a factor? We talked about that. Yeah, now it's on. It's on. Okay, that's.
Oh, you did?
Oh, you did from your phone. See, he knows the secret sauce, how to do it. Okay, so now it kind of gets qualified. I mean, one of the things we had talked about is that the reason why you can't wear gold when you go onto the inside of the Kodesh Kodashim was that it's lifnai v'lifneim. You're going into the inner sanctum. You can't be wearing gold because that will be reminiscent of the sin. So then the question came up, yeah, but a lot of gold things are in there. No, it refers to something that's on the person. Remember, we had this whole back and forth. And one of the things that we said was, well, what about covering the shofar in gold? That's not going to work because same problem. So then the response in the Gemara previously was, but you don't take it in the Kodesh Kodashim. You blow it outdoors in the Beit HaMikdash. Okay, but it's kilifnim dami. It has a quality of prayer such that it's like a tefillah. It's as if it goes to the internal element of the inner sanctum. It's a beautiful idea about shofar. However, on the top of Chav Zayin Amid Aleph, we learn that actually the problem is not the covering of the outside of the shofar. The ornate portion of it outside could be decorated. The issue is what's going to happen if you cover the inside of the shofar. And somehow it's exactly at the aperture of where the mouth meets the shofar. So you look right at the top. Piv mitzupa zahav v'hatanya tzipo zahav makam hanachat piv pasul. Right. So didn't we learn in a braita that if you covered it in gold in the place where you put your mouth, that would be pasul, right? So shalo b'makom hanachat piv kosher. So and if you put it somewhere that is not the place where your mouth goes, it would be kosher. That show would be kosher. I'm going to buy a kitnan nami matnitin shelo b'makam anachat petnan. When the Mishnah said you're covering the shofar with gold, it didn't literally mean the spot where your mouth goes. It meant some other place, maybe the outside of it, something like that. Look at Rashi at the top. Rashi's a particular idea, and that is upiv mitzupa zav b'makom hanachat peh pasul shatkia b'zav v'lo b'shofar. The sound be coming from the gold and not from the shofar itself. So the Ramban in his drasha on Rosh Hashanah, it's in the Kitvei HaRamban. You can find it printed, the drasha Rosh Hashanah. It goes to many, many, many pages. There's a lot of halachic material in there. It's not just exhortatory. It's also delivering halachic material. And there, in that drasha Rosh Hashanah, he points out the problem is that the zahav is chotzetz between the shofar and the mouth. There's an interruption. It's not, according to Rashi, if you look carefully, then maybe the sound will be changed or modified because the tekiah is with the gold and not with the shofar. But the Ramban says it's that you're not going to have your actual lips touching the shofar itself, and that's really what the prerequisite is. The zav is going to be a chotzetz between the shofar and the mouth. The Tur actually lists this idea as well. What's the nafkamina between these two? What if you held the shofar at bay, away from your lips, right? Not with gold on it. Just held it away. So Rashi doesn't seem to think that's a requirement. You made the sound, that's good enough. But for the Ramban, the point is the contact between the mouth and the shofar at the time that you're blowing it. And when you have gold there, gold is interposing itself. It's not about the sound that's coming out. It's the fact that you're not literally touching the shofar to your lips. That's going to be the problem. Ramban. Right. Doesn't matter. By the way, Rashi doesn't either. Just it's going to change the sound. It's going to change the sound. That's what Rashi cares about. But the point is that I think it's lav dafka. It means the gold. He means the tekiah is through some other medium and not the shofar. Yeah, it's true. Right.
It said specifically gold.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I guess part of this issue is that what we're going to get to next is it's going to mention that the chatzotzrot are covered in silver. And in fact, they're made of silver. So, or maybe they're made of silver as part of the discussion. Look, go back to the Mishnah is on the facing page.
As long as I'm queued up.
Please.
My second question was going to be, if you have a shofar, I mean, you have a shofar. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mishnah. Right. And the point is that's not even in the room over here. That was my point, is we thought Inka Tikar Nasis Sanegor referred to the idea that the shofar on the outside had something. The outside, no problem. Even maybe the outside next to the mouth. No, not if it's going to be transforming. In other words, Rashi thinks the gold is overlaid on the outside and it also wraps to the inside of the shofar a little bit. So when you blow on the shofar, the sound is being made by the gold that is inside the tube. That's the problem. And the Ramban says the gold is what's going to be touching your lips, not the shofar, and that's the problem.
So the Ramban here, if the gold was on the inside a little bit.
That's a good question. That's a good question. That's a very good question. And I'm not really sure. At some point, you have to say in Kategor Nasis and Negor, right? Not everyone agreed to in Kategor Nasis and Negor, by the way. You remember that? That was in the previous Mishnah. That's what we had. There was actually a machloket about this. On Chavav Amid Aleph, Rabbi Yossi didn't seem to care about that. You remember? It was Dafka a machloket. The Rabbanan said, Chutz Mishel Para, because the Karen. Rabbi Yossi said, well, any shofar is good. And one of the possibilities for what the issue was maybe the problem was in Katikor Nasis and Egor. Right? We had that discussion. Right? It was a daya, but it's not clear that everybody holds that way. But here, you're right. So you could see a situation where certainly a libed Rabbi Yossi, and maybe a libed Rabbanan not using the daya of Enketer Nasanegor, maybe they would be okay on the inside, as long as it doesn't impact where your mouth goes. Look back at the Mishnah Chavav Amid Bet, just to remind us, I probably should have started there. Shofar Shrosh Hashanah Shel Yael Pashut. Remember, we don't paskin that way in the end, even though that's the Mishnah. We saw that last time. 26b, yeah? Mishnah in the middle, or 2/3 on the page. Shofar Shrosh Hashanah Shel Yael Pashut, Upiv Mitzupa Zahav. The mouth is covered in gold, which we thought was strange, considering what we had said previously. Now, the Ushtei Chatzotzot Min Hatzdadin, and you're going to have two trumpets, one on either side. Rashi already told us on the Mishnah. This is all referring to how it is in the Mikdash. It's not. Don't try this in your shtibel, in your home, or something like that. It's in Davka there. They're going to be on the side. Shofar Marich v'Chatzotzot Makatzot. The shofar is going to go long, going to blow a longer blast. The Chatzotzot are going to finish a little sooner. Shemitzvah Yom b'Shofar. That's Rosh Hashanah. No. They finish a bit earlier. What are they doing there? In the Mikdash, there were shofarot and chatzotzrot. B'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar hariyu lifnei Melech Hashem. We say this in the Beit HaMikdash. Yes, that'll be one of our sugyas tonight. But yes, it's a melody, maybe. Yeah. But some melody. But the shofar would go long and the chatzotzrot would stop and you'd still hear the shofar going. On fast days, uvataniot shel zicharim kefufin. We said it was the male, the ram. Right? They're bent, not straight. Upiyim mitzupa kesef. The mouth is covered in silver. Ushtei chatzotzot ba'emtza. And there are two chatzotzot in the middle, which is a little hard to come by if there's unless you have two shofarot. Was chatzotzot, there are two chatzotzot. So how are they in the middle of one shofar? Obviously, there's a shofar flanking on the other side. Shofar makatz and chatzotzot marichot. Shemitzvah chatzotzot. The shofar goes short, and there the chatzotzot go long, because the mitzvah of the time of a fast day is chatzotzot. Please. They are, for sure they are. Yinachinami. Of course they're blown by multiple people. On Rosh Hashanah, there's a guy with a man with a shofar, and two people standing on either side, each one with a chatzotzrot, one of the chatzotzrot. So they blow shofar and chatzotzrot, and the shofar keeps going, and the chatzotzrot falls silent. On a fast day, it's the opposite, but for obvious reasons, you need to have two shofarot, because otherwise, how could the chatzot be in the emtza of what if there's only one guy? So, okay, the point is there, the chatzotzrot is the main thing. They had a different sound, and the chatzotzrot were, in this case, by the way, you notice the chatzotzrot described here are not the chatzotzrot described in the Torah, which are made of silver to gather the nation when they're in the midbar. These chatzotzrot are made out of horns of animals. And different animals than Rosh Hashanah. What we saw last time is based on the last line here, where it mentions Shave Hayovel Rosh Hashanah L'Tkiyav L'Brachot. Rabbi Yirmiyah Rosh Hashanah Tokim B'Shal Zecharim, Rabbi B'Shal Ye'elim. And we end up passing the Rabbi Yehuda. Rosh Hashanah we use Zecharim Kfufin, and Yovel we use Yael Pashut. We had three. In the end, this was a sugya last we learned, three different boxes, three different times we use that which makes sound, special events. By the way, there was shofarot and chatzrot every day in the mikdash. We learned this in Masachet Sukkah. But here, there's a particular mitzvah on Rosh Hashanah to blow shofar, and a particular mitzvah on a fast day to use the chatzotzrot to gather the people. The third box is Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur in a year of Yovel takes on the forms in certain ways of Rosh Hashanah. Shmona Esrei is the same as Rosh Hashanah, 9 brachas, and we have the blowing of the shofar on Yom Kippur, which normally we don't do. Culminating in the blowing of the shofar at the end of Yom Kippur, free the slaves, which is what we do still, the Zecher. Mark, please.
Go back to this mouth thing. So for the Ramban on the mouth plated with silver, he's okay with that for that shofar.
We're getting there.
Okay.
Right, but it seems like there maybe it is okay because there you have less of a hakpada.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
silver knuckle, so now I'm totally confused a little bit.
Yeah.
No. The idea is that for sure the shofar on Rosh Hashanah has to be a shofar. Cannot just take trumpets, can't take brass, can't take silver. It has to be a shofar.
Higher.
Yeah.
That-
But does it get covered in gold? Why are you covering it in gold? So the discussion shortly coming along. Why would you even bother doing that? Right? Hidur mitzvah. Yeah. Yeah, you're onto something for sure. But this first little sugya, little tiny sugya, just a few lines, you already see hidur mitzvah. It's a great point, right? You want to look nice. Is that Kalei van Veyu? Lulav na, sukkah na. It says shofar na. It says so. Yes, but it's not in the Gemara there and on Zekeli Van Veyu at the end of Masachet Shabbat and Kuftet Zion doesn't have that, but yes, you could say that too. You see that in the end, at least the way it's described here, piv mitzupas up. See, when you say the word piv, what peh are you talking about? Right? Maybe it means the peh means where it comes out, the wide part of the shofar where the sound is emitting. So you're going to put there. In case you thought it was the aperture where your mouth goes, Rashi says not if it's going to change the sound, and Ramban says not if it's going to be a chatzitza between your mouth and the shofar itself. Yeah.
That was the confusion that I had, because if you can't, because if the whole point is the mouthpiece, and you get in the sound and you can't put it to your mouth,
Right.
well, how are you going to get a sound anyway if you can't put it to your mouth?
No. The point is there'll be an interruption.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's a it's a given. It's really
It is, except for the problem that the Mishnah used the language piv mitzupazav, which sounds like the mouth. What's the mouth? The mouthpiece, or the mouth of the shofar at the end of it, which is the wide part.
right. So
Turns out must be the wide part. It can't be the part where your mouth goes.
right.
Yeah, for this reason or that.
Say someone, if I understand
Yeah.
the case, someone covers small end or mouthpiece at the end with gold. You could still get a sound out of the shofar.
Right, but the Ramban says your mouth is going to be touching that gold. That's a problem. The chatzitza.
Seats.
Right.
It's a
Rashi says.
Yeah.
Rashi says we're only worried about this if it changes the sound that comes out of the shofar. So and then the Gemara ends up saying, well, the Braita, that's the point. Abai says, Kitanan nami matnitin shlomak machat petnan. When it said piv mitzupasav, it didn't literally mean the place where your mouth goes. I mean, somewhere higher up on the shofar, but the rest of it could be ensconced in gold and somewhere on the outside. Please, Judah.
I was going to say the Inyan Chatzitza matters not whether it's silver or gold.
Right. Technically not. Except the question is going to be when it comes to Chatzotzrot, since the Torah says they could be made of kesef in the first place, biblically, maybe that's different. Because it says that they're made aseh l'chashtei Chatzotzrot kesef, which is not what the Chatzotzrot being described here actually come from an animal. Follow?
But they're talking about the plating on a shofar, not the chatzot.
Not yet, but the Mishnah was talking about Chatzotzrot also. You're right. We're not up to it yet. Not up to it yet.
Because it's a yes, that was moved.
In the Torah, it says that, but not in the Mishnah.
That could be-
V'yom simchatchem.
Right?
that could be-
Yeah, yeah, sometimes.
Other than yes.
Sure. That's what happens. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. So here we are. Here we are. Let's look at the next sugya here, 4 lines down from the top. Ushtei chatzotzrot min hatzdadim. 2 chatzotzrot, 1 on either side. Great sugya here. Trei Kalei mishtame. So you're going to have 2 sounds going at the same time. By 2, we really mean multiple sounds. Your mitzvah is Rosh Hashanah. They hear the shofar. 2 guys burst in on the side. They brought their own trumpets. They're going to make noise on the side. We're here for the mitzvah of shofar. It's a Yom Trua. So what are you doing with the Chatzotzrot? Now, apparently that's what they did, but the Gemara wants to know, Trei Kalei mishtame, can you actually hear 2 sounds? Is that permissible? V'atanya, so we're early, we're really early. You already have the Vartar now for Shavuos. Right here. You're ready. Zachor v'shamor b'dibur echad. Namru. Ma'ashe'en ha'peh yechol l'daber v'ein ha'ozen yechol l'shmoa. Right? It was miraculous. During the Seder Dibrot, Kadosh Baruch Hu speaks Zachor and Shamor b'dibur echad. Right? B'dibur echad, in one speech, which the mouth cannot really do and the ear cannot really hear. Lekach, so therefore, because of that reality, we have here, lekach, therefore, marich bashofar, you go long on the shofar. The chatzotzrot falls silent. The shofar keeps going, right? I'm going to keep going. So, the Ritva points out here that when you're marich the shofar, you have to make sure that arichut after the chatzotzrot get quiet is the length of a shear of tekiah shofar. That's the Ritva's view. The Ramban says that the shear would actually even be li'ikuva in order to be able to the mitzvah, right? An uninterrupted tekiah. So there's the tekiah with the chatzotzrot going in the background. Chatzotzrot falls silent. You still need a shear, whatever the shear is. We haven't come to it yet, but you know already intuitively because you've been to shul. Yeah. A shear for how long the tekiah has to be. It better be that length. True of the same thing. V'chulei. The Rashba, however, says lav davka. You don't necessarily need the whole shear. Maybe you already heard part of it. You heard, okay, there was another sound also going. You were focused maybe on the shofar. And therefore, we're going to keep going longer with the shofar and the chatzotzrot in order to signify today the mitzvah is shofar. But you don't need to do the whole shear. You heard the whole shear. There's some background noise. What? The chazan singing and there's background singers. So you can't hear the chazan? The chazan's louder. The chazan's doing the main voice. The background singers, the background singers. The shofar is the main singer. And you have the chatzotzrot, the background singers. The Rashba was not convinced, based on this Gemara, that you need to necessarily hear the entire shear of the tekiah or the shvarm or the trua of the shofar after the chatzotzrot fell silent. He thought it could be done sort of code sharing, and then the chatzotzrot stop, and he keeps going with the shofar. By the way, and I should point this out so it's obvious in case it wasn't obvious, the shofar and the chatzotzrot make a different sound, right? Because they were meant to signify different things. So on a fast day, when they blew the chatzotzrot, people knew, it's telling us we have to assemble. There's an Eight Sarah. Right? And that's Judah was referencing, that's actually the parsha in the Torah telling you the different types of calls are going to represent either get together or break down the encampment or whatever it is. So you know, remember? A lot of back and forth. You were the one who said it.
I'm saying also, I think the blue shofar for going to war.
Yes, that has a historical precedent, but you have it's right in the it's in that parsha as well. I'm misquoting the psukim, but it's there in Bamidbar chapter 10. Can you help us? Al tzarat tzveretchem? Yeah? You don't remember offhand. If only we were in a base madrash, could open a chumash. But it'll take time, so I don't want to do that because we have to learn, so we can't open another sefer. Al tzarat tzveretchem. No? You know what I'm talking about. Do you not know what I'm talking about? This is the psukim in hold on one second. Modern technology. I could get a book, but why not? It's much better here. Tanakh. It's in Bahalotcha, chapter 10. Yeah. So here we are, the book of Numbers, chapter 10. The exact, you have here, those are made entirely out of silver. That's to call people together and for traveling. The tekiah, the trua on that. But then you have the section v'chitavo milchama ba'artzachem al atzarot tzoreretchem v'ariotem b'chatzotzot v'nizkartem lifnei Hashem Elokeichem v'noshatem me'oivechem. And it makes it sound here like it's also chatzotzrot. And the question becomes, is it literally chatzotzrot, or does this mean chatzotzrot or shofar? Then uviyom simchatchem v'moadechem v'roshei chodshechem utkatem b'chatzotzrot al oteichem al zivchei shalmeichem v'yulchem l'zikron lifnei Elokeichem v'yeshem Elokeichem. That's it. On the enemies, the wars, chatzotzrot. The Yom Simcha is Chatzotzrot. Now, this has application also in the Beit HaMikdash on days of Simcha generally. All the Yom Tov, the Blue Shofar, Chatzotzrot, Kalei, every day there was that. So the discussion here is, okay, when you have the two sounds, a shofar and a chatzotzrot going, it's true the chatzotzrot outnumber the shofar 2-1, but it's also true that the shofar is the main player and is going to go longer. So the Rashba just says you're just going to focus more on the sound of the shofar. Chatzotzrot are playing backup. Beseder. So when you hear the end, the Ramban didn't agree. He thought it was liikuva. The Ritva thought that they have to marich the shofar the exact shear because it was necessary in order to show that that was the mitzvah of the day. Okay, questions, comments? Arguments, Mark.
I feel like I'm one of those movies where I'm like 5 seconds behind.
It's okay.
Does it bother anybody, and I say anybody, I mean a portion of anybody, come here, the Brisa brings basically a dibur from Hashem that's at a time of Nisi to support hearing two things at once.
I'm glad you asked.
Weird to me, right?
I'm glad you asked that. Right. But the point of the Shnaim, how does it go? It's davar she'edeina ozni choli shmoa. It's the mouth cannot speak. Masha'ein hapeh. Where is it? Masha'ein hapeh yichol ledaber. A human wouldn't be able to speak two words from the same person, and the ozen, the ear, would not be able to hear two words at exactly the same time if they were identical, right? But then they say, well, so therefore, we're just going to make the shofar go long.
It's just a weird argument.
But it's a weird argument.
It's like you say, I'm late for work, so I'm gonna just, God will just park the Lake Michigan and I'll get
Don't put it past them.
Well, I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
Great, but
He's done that before. I mean,
Make for an interesting story at work. Yeah. The idea is there are a few answers to this. Number one, I think acknowledging that it's kind of strange is okay.
No one seems to say anything.
Well, not so far, but we're just we're in the first draft tonight. We got to do Gemara, Rashi, Tosfot. After we finish Tosfot, we'll come next time. You got to hold the thought. But I will say, just as an initial sort of just thinking about it, is the point is that the Ribbon Shalom is modeling for us, and if he's doing something like splitting the sea, well, we can't do that because it's defying nature. We don't know how to do that. But when it's something like we had to hear what Hashem said, right? So it's a particular chiddush that there was a nace in that case. But here it turns out we are learning from a pattern of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's behavior or action. Okay, but in general cases, you can't do this. The point of Zahav v'Shamar v'Dibur Echad means that the two were amalgamated in some miraculous way. But in real life, not in miraculous world, but in natural order of things, you can't rely on that. It wouldn't have worked, right? And by the way, if you want analogs to this, it's sort of in the family of the question of Lulav Hagazul, where you have that story about the king who doesn't have to pay the toll. And he says, pay the toll. And sire, the toll's getting paid to you. What does he say? I'm modeling for all the subjects. It's right there in the Gemara at the beginning of Lulav Hagazul, the first blot, pretty much, the facing page of the Mishnah, right there on Chavtet. That's what it says. There's the Kadosh Baruch Hu where tefillin, what's in Hashem's tefillin, like, as the Kadosh Baruch Hu bound in mitzvahs, things like that. Ira, please.
Quickly, and this, this might be addressed later on. So the Gemara is talking about the different, sounds you have a class so short, you have a shofar. why doesn't the Gemara mention places where you can blow? For example, it's usher, you can't blow in a pit, like in a bore or something like that. Why doesn't the Gemara address that at the same time?
It will. It's coming up. It's next. You're right. You're always like right there. It's the next sugya is going to be about that. Distorted sounds.
Right.
How does distorted sounds impact the reality of hearing the shofar? And then the question is, well, are the chatzotzot distorting sounds?
That was what I wanted.
So that's the assumption of the Gemara at this point is that hearing the shofar and the chatzotzot is Trei Kalei. It is two voices. Trei Kalei lo mishtame. You can't hear two voices at the same time. But of course, the Gemara is going to start drilling down. One of the first things it says, okay, so let it go long. But the Gemara is going to start having questions against this. It's going to cite different examples. We're going to see them now. We're like, that's the solution? There's no solution at all. And it's going to explain why it's not a solution. We'll go back and forth. Larry and then Judah. Yeah.
Terribly different. God goes well.
And then it goes low. Boom.
Goes well, doesn't go
Yeah,
well.
switches.
That is their expression.
So that's another separate question. We'll come to it a little later in the learning, but we should all live and be well. Let's say the difference there is it's not a distortion of the sound outside, external to the shofar making the sound. The distortion has to be some external force that means you're not actually hearing the kol shofar. In other words, that's why the halacha actually is kol av, kol dak. Could be a very thick sound, could be a very thin sound. By thick, it really means a low sound. Could be a high sound. Could be any of those.
There's an assumption that putting the gold pedal
Changes it.
was an assumption.
Not the fact that the sound has changed, but that now the sound is not authentically from a shofar. That's the problem. It's modified by something else. Yeah. But if you are blowing shofar and it's the Rashi's point. You're going to change the sound. Rashi said you're going to change the sound. The gold is making the sound, not the actual shofar. But if you're blowing shofar and the tone changes midstream, the truth is, as long as you complete it, it actually is kosher. It doesn't sound great, but it's still kosher. This case here now, what we're up to is Trei Kalei, the notion of two voices. The Gemara is going to say, wait a second. Do you mean to tell me that if I heard just the beginning or just the end of the sound of a shofar, I'd be yotze? I mean, that's what it sounds like. The assumption of the Gemara is, Trei Kalei lo mishtama. You can't hear two voices at the same time. Only God can make that happen. But in all cases, the natural order, that doesn't work. There was one exception, Shamar v'zacha b'dibur echad. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So the Gemara's proposed solution was, well, the shofar will go long to show that it's the mitzvah yom. So go long? How much is it going long? Can it be that if you heard just the beginning or the end of a tekiah, you'd be yotze? And it brings a proof from the Gemara later on, which will be relevant for our conversation. Join me in the Gemara inside. Oh, Judy, you had a question. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to skip you. I'm sorry. Forgot.
עיקר המצווה לשמוע כל שופר.
Yeah, that's in the end what we say. It's a machloket, but in the end we say it's
Diluting it with the chatzotzot.
right.
Because it's not part of the.
She'ela tova meod. That's the question. That is the question at hand.
The chatzotzot.
That's what they're saying, stagger. But the staggering is they're all three going to start at the same time. It'll sound beautiful, but when the chatzotzot will stop, the shofar will keep going, and that's when you're fulfilling the mitzvah.
But you say the bracha before you hear. At that time, you listen also to the chatzotzot, and they're not included in your bracha. I would do shofar and then
Judy, you just opened the door into this long hallway, which now I have to walk through because what am I going to do to not walk through it? There's a big machloket. What's the bracha on mitzvah shofar? Litkoa or lishmoa? It's a big machloket what the bracha is. Rabbeinu Tam thinks it's litkoa, and then we disagree. We think it's lishmoa, and we paskin it's lishmoa. How come there's a machloket about what the bracha is? There's a machloket about what the mitzvah is. The mitzvah is for sure the listening to the shofar, but maybe the mitzvah, somehow the bracha was on the tekiah itself. Maybe it's the Baal Tokeah who's fulfilling it, and everyone else is Shmei Ke'ona. It's a whole sugya. But the Baal Hamor has this radical idea where he says, you know what, there's a machloket about a bracha? I mean, what is there? Is there a machloket about what the bracha is on Netilat Lulav? No. Why is there a machloket about this? And he says because the original tekiyat shofar was only done inside Musaf. And there wasn't bracha on tekiyat shofar. It was only later that they added the first 30,
Right.
and that required a bracha. So now, okay, what are we going to call it? Which is why in the days of the Rishonim, they're still debating, is the bracha lishmoa or litzkoa? Now, that's totally counterintuitive because normally we tell people, well, the main hearing of the shofar, if you had to choose, hear 30 blasts. That's still true. The bracha, 30 sounds. And we remind people that's Tekola Dimiyushav, that's headlining. And then we also integrate it into the Musaf prayer, second 30. But Rabbi Lamar says, no, originally everybody said it in the Musaf. Nobody did anything before. And therefore there was no bracha. But later on, they realized people coming in and out of the shul, they're coming, they're going, then they weren't hearing the full amount. So what do? We added 30. Not in the Musaf, not after Musaf, before Musaf. Therefore, it needs a bracha. It's not in the context of. You follow? You can make the same case, by the way. Well, not the same, but an analog is where's the bracha on Hallel at the night of the Seder, at the Seder, right? So one of the ideas is it's integrated in the Seder. So you don't need to make a bracha. It's part of the Seder. Rav Haigon's calling it the Shira, so it's integrated. So you don't need a bracha when it's inside. It's only when it's a standalone, then it's going to need a bracha, and then you have machloket back and forth. You open the door, so I had to walk in.
I have another question to you as a rabbi.
Oh boy.
If
I'm gonna
some
duck.
of your
Duck.
congregants are using modernly those
Hearing
clear
aids.
thing, do they have to pull it out?
It's a shaila. It's a shaila. We ask people who have hearing devices should try to stand close enough so that if they didn't have the hearing device, they would still be able to hear the shofar. But then if they're using that to augment, we say it's mutter. But it is a shaila. If you were far enough away, the only way you could hear it was through the hearing device. That would be a question. If you'd be yotze.
So can
That's
you
true.
hear it in
No,
the well,
but I'm glad you asked.
It's electronic.
It is
It's not a
electronic.
matter of distance.
No. So we tell people with a hearing impairment, people have asked me. I tell them, if you're in a minyan where the Baal Tekeh is not loud enough that you wouldn't hear it, if you weren't close, stand a little closer. You don't have to take it out. But you do have to be in the vicinity. It's a shaila for Mikra Megillah. Any mitzvah shmiya, it's a shaila, and basically you go a little closer. You have to be right up in front. You don't have to take them out. And then if it's augmenting the sound a little, okay, matov manayim. Okay, back to the sugya. Again, the Gemara started by saying, well, Trei Kalei lo mishtame. So how could there be chatzotzrot on the sides altogether? But we see that in the Beit HaMikdash, that's the Mishnah says you're supposed to do. So the answer is, the shofar is going to go long. That'll be enough. So the Gemara says that's going to be enough. What are you talking about? We're back now. Look in the Gemara, right? So again, let me read it from the beginning because I'm sure you got lost like I did. Fourth line. I was just making a laning. Two trumpets, one to each side. Are you going to be able to hear two voices at the same time? Vatanya, didn't we learn? Zachor v'shemor b'dibur echad ne'amru ma she'ena peh yechola l'daber v'ena ozen chol l'shmoa. I mean, we know that it's miraculous to be able to hear two sounds at the same time. Lekach marich b'shofar. You go long in the shofar to be good enough. The Gemara says, wait, lememra dechishama sof tkiya below tchila tkiya yatsa. You heard only the end of the tkiya without hearing the beginning of the tkiya because it was distorted by the chatzot yotze. Umela tchila tkiya below sof tkiya yatsa. You're going to say the other way also, right? Look at Rashi, a second line of Rashi from the top. Umemela demali sof below tchila, umali tchila below sof. Umshum deboy leutuve atarvayu diek hachdiuka. Since you have to answer for both of these kinds of questions, so I've mentioned both ends of the sound, right? Because maybe you could argue, you start with the shofar and then you'll add in the chatzitzrot in the middle. Yeah. You still didn't hear, so yeah. Again, the Rishonim kind of say, okay, so at least as we saw just now, the Ritva and the Ramban, you have to be marich, means you have to have a full shear. But the Gemara doesn't assume that. The Gemara is wondering, like, how could you be doing this all together? Tashma, and that's what we got into the question, Judah's question of, would it be a hefsek if you made a bracha, lishmo kol shofar, and then you didn't actually hear the shofar, heard something else in between? But I just answered that one. Okay. Tashma, taka b'rishona, umashik b'shniya kishtayim, ein biyado, ela achat. Let's say, the lines in the machzer. Tekiya, shvarim trua, tekiya, 3 times. What if you did tekiya, shvarim trua, and then the Baal Makri says tekiya, and the Baal Tokea went extra long, super long, and he stopped. So then what does the Baal Makri do? He says, Shvarim Trua. He forgot the tekiah of the next line. But he says, I didn't forget. It was so long, it counted as two. So the Gemara here says that does not work. Does not work because you didn't have a hefsek in between. Taka b'rishono mashich b'shniya kishtayim. Right? You did the first tekiah, then you did shvarm trua, and then the shniya means the one at the end of it. You did it like as long as two. Ein biyada ela achat. You only have one in hand. Now, how do you know that it was so long it was two? Because the Baal Tokeya blew the first tekiah a certain length.
Right.
And then the second tekiah that he blew double the length. So you could tell, oh, it was double the one from before. Nothing doing, says the Gemara. It's not going to work. Ein biyado ela achat. Right? It's not going to work. So the Gemara says, okay, amai, tislik le betarte, right? Psukit kiyate mahadade lo paskinan. So maybe it'll count for two. You heard the shear of a tekiah, right? The question here is not that he wants to split the tekiah in half, but he is yotze because he heard at least half of it. It's good enough, No, we're not gonna do that, right? We're not gonna allow that, even if it was the right shear. So in other words, if you only heard half of a sound, it's only going to count as the half. You heard a long one, it's still only going to count as one. We're not going to count it as two separate ones. So the Gemara says, okay, another question. And this is what Ira brought up. Tashma, how tekel toch habor, or toch hadut. A dut is some kind of it's a structure that is either all above ground, like a mausoleum, or it's partly below ground, partly above ground. There's a machloket among the Mefarshim what it is.
Are you concerned whether it may be an echo?
So it could be an echo. Yeah. It could be an echo. And the third one is a pitas, is a large barrel of some kind. So im kol shofar shama yatsa. If you can call havara shama lo yatsa. Just so you know, and so will come maybe as a little bit of a surprise. Kol havara we translate colloquially as referring to an echo, but not everyone agrees. There's where did I see this? Quoted in the name of the Biur Halacha. And Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Berurah writes that it's really not an echo, it's a distortion. It's a distortion while you're blowing. An echo is I speak, and when I wait, the sound comes back again. Here, it's that because I'm blowing it into the sound, into this space, the walls themselves are causing something. It's not that the sound is hitting something and coming back to me. It's that it's automatically already coming out in a warbled way after the first second. It's warbled, so the sound waves get inside. That's according to Biur Halacha, that's what a kol havara is. So you say, okay, so amai, so okay, leipuk b'tchila tekiah, mikmei di la'arbev kala, yeah. So maybe you'll say it's good enough till the sound gets warbled, till the chatzotzrot take over, or while the chatzotzrot are going. That's no good, but the rest is okay, right? So what you see that actually that does not work, right? Elatarte Kalei michad gavra lo mishtame. It's Trei gavre mishtame. All right. So no, two sounds from one person does not work, and that is the case here. You have you're hearing two sounds from one person means the first part applied to our Gemara. The first part is the shofar and the chatzotzrot. Chatzotzrot being blown by two other people, but the shofar there is warbled because someone else is making a sound. That's no good. The only part that's good is the part that's after the chatzotzrot are quiet, whatever you hear afterward. And the shofar being marich is not just to show a distinction, but the Gemara is mashma that it's accepting the idea that it has to be a full shear of the shofar after it's over. But we say no, but Trei Kalei michad gavre lo mishtameh. Since there's going to be, when the guy stands outside of the cave and he puts the shofar in, he blows the shofar, and it's a warbled sound later on. We don't say the first half is good, the second half is bad. So the whole thing is no good. Even the first part that was not warbled. So the Gemara has accepted essentially that something is very wrong here to say that you have a shofar and two chatzotzrot where, don't worry, we'll make the shofar go a little longer afterward. Part of it was no good. Part of that sound was warbled because it had other sounds mixed in with it. So now the whole sound is no good. But if you had two people The truth is, from two people, mitrei gavre, mishtame. The only thing that will save us here is that it's separate people who are standing holding different instruments. So maybe that would be okay, and that's what differentiates it here. You follow? It's one guy blowing a shofar and two people holding the chatzotzrot. But the Gemara says that also doesn't work, because what about Trei Kalei? Even if there are two people, I mean, Trei Gavre Mimishtame, if two people are making a sound, that's okay. Vahatanya, didn't we learn? By the way, I should pause here to mention from Mark's question before, it's even stranger now, because the Gemara has said, well, the issue with Hashem speaking Shema v'Zochah b'dibur echad is that he is, I say in quotation marks, Chad Gavra, like one person, that's one voice. But this is two different people, or actually three different people. Trei means the plural. One guy blowing shofar, two people blowing chatzotzrot. So in the end, that should be okay. The Gemara recalls in Horror and says, you're allowing two people to speak at the same time, and you think that's mashma? What about Kriyat Torah? V'hatanya b'Torah echad korei v'echad metargem. You can have the Torah, one person's the Baal Korei, one person the Metargem. Remember the olden days, there was no drasha in shuls. You think, oh, get out early, it's great. Except that every single pasuk that they read, they had someone translate into Aramaic. Every single pasuk. So came through a long parsha, it was double, but they would have to alternate the Baal Korei and the Metargem. Wilvad, but the only thing is, Shaloyu Shnaim Korim, this in the footnote, it should be Shaloyu Hey Echad Korei. Shouldn't have one person reading and two people doing the targum at the same time. Yeah, so that we're not going to allow, because that would be Trei Kalei from two different people. Okay, so you just finished saying, oh, don't worry, there's no problem of Trei Kalei lo mishtame because it's Trei Gavre, and that's okay. We find out here that having two maturgamanim who are speaking at the same time, they're like parrots. They're saying exactly the same time. They're reading the targum out loud, they're saying in Aramaic out loud. That is not good. You're not allowed to do that. Right? So the Gemara.
First challenge. The second challenge seems to have taken care of the first challenge was on length, right? Where it said it was two, you couldn't count it as two.
Yeah.
What did that challenge bring to the argument? The argument.
The idea that you can split. The idea that you can split one sound into being two sounds. The answer is you can't split one sound into two sounds.
Why do we need that?
Because the first part of the sound is no good.
Oh.
Because it has two chatzotzrot.
Okay. And then the second
and the second one was you started good, but then it got warbled because the sound starts to get distorted when it's going into the cave.
Not both, you would have been able to say, okay, it's warbled, but I would have been able to set the second one now. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or you would have said maybe what it means is you start with the shofar and then you add the chatzotzrot as like a big finish. No, in either case, you've ruined something about the shofar, so that can't be true. That can't be true. Yeah. But then the Gemara said, yeah, but you know what? This whole case is talking about Chad Gavre, Trei Kalei lo mishtame. It's miraculous for one person to make two sounds. One person means one voice, means Hashem, means one voice. But that's not really happening with the shofar and the chatzotzrot because there's different people. So the Gemara says, what? No, that doesn't work either, because you can have one Baal Korei and one Maturgaman, but you should not have the Braita says you should not have one Baal Korei and two Maturgamanim. So it doesn't work. So the Gemara says, wait. You made the wrong comparison. You compared it to Kriyat Torah. You should have used the Seifa, which is Halal of Megillah, Afilu Asara Korin. If you had Halal and Megillah being read, even 10 reading at the same time, leading Halal. Right? By the way, we don't think of it that way, but Halal is a mitzvah of Kriya. If you skip a word, you're on Yotze. You have to say all the words in Halal. That's, yeah. So the and Mikra Megillah, you have to hear every single word. So Afilu Asara, even if 10 we're going to read. So the Gemara says, no, Alma, Kaven de Chaviv Yaif Daite. The truth is, the reason why that works in Halal and Megillah is because we love those tefillot, that we love those Megillot, and therefore you're going to pay attention. You'll focus on the sound. It won't be distorted, even though there's 10 people reading at the same time. So Hachanami, with regard to the shofar and the chatzotzrot, Kaven the Chaviv, since it's so precious, Yaif Daite, Vishama. You'll listen in, doesn't matter. You won't be distracted by the fact that two chatzotzrot. You'll be focused on the shofar. So then why are you going long on the shofar? It's not because there was something wrong with having the shofar synchronized the sound with the chatzotzrot. It was just that leidash mitzvah yom b'shofar. In order to signal to people, the real mitzvah is the shofar. So the shofar goes long for the big finish, and the chatzotzrot stop. What we're up to now, just so you understand, we'll learn one little extra piece here, and then we'll say goodnight, because I think we're actually at the time. We probably have to stop. because I think people are getting tired, is the end point is the only reason why the shofar goes longer than Chatzotzot and Rosh Hashanah, the Maskana of the Gemara, is to show the mitzvahs with the shofar, so it has greater prominence. But we're not really concerned that you have a shofar and the sound of two Chatzotzot in the background. Why? People love the sound of the shofar. They know it's Rosh Hashanah. They're listening for the shofar, and the two Chatzotzot are sort of on background relative to the shofar. That's how the Gemara ends. And this is really a striking thing because
Trei Kalei is not a problem,
Sof, if it's Trei Kalei is a problem only in a case where it's not Chaviv. So for Kriyat Torah, somehow it's a problem, but for Hallel and Mikra Megillah, it's not a problem. And P.S., for Shofar, it's not a problem. And indeed, this is really quite something. The Yom Trua, so named, one of the Achronim, Yom Trua, writes that Kriyat Torah is not Chaviv. Kriyat Torah is not Chaviv, it's learning. It's Kriyat Torah. Brilliant answer. It says every Jew comes on Shabbos to hear the laning, but they already did Shnai Mikra. So there's nothing new. They already read it. They read the Psukim already. They're not hearing it for the first time in the week. So it doesn't matter. Number two, Hallel and Megillah are two readings that remind us about, again and again, everything we read about Avad Hanes. And therefore, we're into it because Nisim. And what's the shofar also has something. It's to remind Hashem about a kid at Yitzchak. And the zchut of that, we hope to be written in the book of life. That's one of the things we're doing. We saw that already in the Gemara and Tet Zion. And we written in Sefer Chaim, and therefore it's chaviv. But the Kriyat Torah, it's a regular mitzvah, but it's not chaviv because it doesn't remind us of Nisim per se. It doesn't necessarily bring us, to be written in the book of life. So we're marich in the shofar because it's the mitzvah of the yom in the shofar. There were two Tosfotim to see, but it is 8:48, and I sense that people are already a little bit cooked. So why don't we stop here? Why don't we get together next week? Of course, the night of Yom Ha'atzmaut, we will not have a shiur, but I think Monday night next
night is the cold
week.
So my brother is doing the Yom HaZikaron at the academy. 7:30. Mincha 7:45.
Okay, maybe I'll try to do Sunday then. I'm not sure what to tell you because Tuesday night's already Yom Ha'atzmaut. Yeah.
Monday night won't work.
Wednesday. I didn't hear you, Ronnie. You said something?
Monday night won't work.
It looks like maybe not. People want to go to the Yom HaZikaron thing that the wife is important. So again, as everyone already knows in this business, Ein Lo Davar Sof, there's always something happening. Baruch Hashem, an amazing community. We keep canceling and moving. Okay, maybe it'll be either Sunday night or Wednesday night next week to accommodate those to the Yom HaZikaron. It is an important.
Can you figure it out before?
Yeah, before.
Figure it out before
yes,
we have
I
the
do.
announcements.
Thank you very much. Lovely to see everyone.